and welcome to the December meeting. It's great to see you all. I know it's been sort of an odd time, I guess. Maybe about to get odder, I don't know. I guess it's sort of a interesting fact of the times we live in. Things seem to be pretty unpredictable. But I've got a few things to go over. I'm sure Mr. LaBella does, and perhaps Mr. Feil. So I don't know. I guess I'll turn it over to Mr. Feil and Mrs. Wong, and we can get our meeting started. If you want to go over the minutes from last month or what have you.
Did you want to do that?
No, you please feel free. Feel free.
Winnie, do you have the minutes from last month?
Yes,
That's normally our thing, but that's a good idea.
Yeah. So I did send a copy to each person in the reminder email yesterday. So last month we did go over a few budget things. We are still in good standing and have about $500K to spend. And I know Mr. Berman.
I'm sorry. I hope you did get the documents. I think Jasmine or Winnie, I think you did send those out, correct? Great. Oh, thank you.
Great. Yep. 500,000. Go ahead.
Okay. And we will be reviewing some of those documents today. And it would be a nice refresher for everyone. We did decide at the last meeting that the rest of our SLT meeting dates will be the second Tuesday of each month, unless it's like a vacation week, and it will be at 3:00 via Zoom. We had a little bit of in-person learning feedback from Kathy McDonald, who talked about like when she spoke with parents and they brought up the ORC curriculum, and they would like to see that come back, and maybe we can get that incorporated back into our curriculums starting in the spring. And then we talked a little bit about the social emotional feedback, and again, Kathy let us know that she had a nephew, I believe, from North Carolina who really enjoyed his SEL classes within, his schedule. So we're going to look into that. We also, with our sixth graders, they all have SEL classes. And I know within the first couple of weeks of this school year, a lot of our teachers did SEL lessons with our students, and we will continue to do that throughout the year, through class and lessons, as well as through homeroom. We did have a respectful disagreement conversation or discussion. Mr. Feil shared with us a student in our school who had a political debate with another student, and he did speak with the principal from a Catholic school. We had an NIA update really quick, was just that the students are working on a Zoom play. The play was actually written to be performed via Zoom. So I hope John can give us some more updates, maybe in terms of when this performance will happen. And then PTO updates, I believe they had, there was a PTO meeting on the 17th of last month, and that there are still no 8th grade news about the SHSAT or their new test date after it was originally removed from the website. And then someone had asked, because during the last meeting, it was, I think a few days or the day before parent-teacher conference, and someone was just interested in knowing if, it's obligated that we as teachers have to have a parent-teacher conference, even if it's, now all remote and we're not really actually meeting parents in person. And yes, it is. It's a contractual obligation for us.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you, Winnie. That was very thorough.
Great job, Winnie. That's a really nice thing to do to start the meeting. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, and if there are any corrections or anything that if anyone thinks that we need to make to them, we can certainly do that. Great. So, Mr. Feil, do you want to start with our agenda today?
Sure. So the first thing that we put on the agenda was some fun activities being planned, I guess tying into the SEL.
Well, I think you had the meeting with the eighth graders first.
Oh, I did?
Yes.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry about that. I thought that was the title of the thing. Misreading it. Yes, we've been going around, and that's Ms. McGar, Mr. Mazatowski, the guidance counselor, and myself. And we've been meeting with eighth graders, 5 or 6 kids at a time, and just basically checking in to see how they're doing, with the idea that it's a very stressful time to be in the 8th grade, not knowing if there's going to be an SHSAT, that, real concern, where the kid's going to go to high school, how are they doing in general. It's basically just a check-in in a smaller group, and we've had some really great discussions with them. And, we're trying to tell the kids, look, you can't control necessarily what's going on. We could have wants, we can have strong opinions, but ultimately the mayor and the chancellor have control of this. So we're trying to get them to not spend a lot of energy worrying, and more energy on trying to, do activities outside of school, keep their heads together, communicate with us as often as possible if they have any issues. One girl today said she's applying to some private school. She asked me if I would help her with her essays and things like that. So, we're really just, making sure we're in touch, and that the kids know that we are there for them, and that we are empathetic toward what they're going through, as far as this being, like Mr. Berman said, interesting times, tough times. Ultimately, they'll be stronger for this, but right now they're not having such a great time with such uncertainty. Did you want to add something to that, Mr. Berman?
Yeah, sure. And that's great, Mr. Feil. I want to let you know that that's our team know that that's also happening in the other grades as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the small group sort of interactions and sessions have been very, very, very productive. The kids are under, as you know, a tremendous amount of pressure and a lot of stress. And we've been seeing some really unfortunate conditions in some of our students, and in particular, some of our 8th graders. And it's very sad and it's frightening. One of the things that we really need to change and make happen, and I'm going to be meeting with the teachers tomorrow who are involved in this. And I know this is something that has come up in our leadership team before, and we did make some modifications, but at this point, it's just not enough. The kids need a break during the day. They need to have lunch. They
That came up today.
They need a break. And the way we're going to do that is when they have that instructional lunch. I'm going to meet with the teachers tomorrow, and I'm going to let them know, don't let them have half the period as lunch. Just let them have that period as a lunch period. And the teachers will be there with them if they want to give. I don't even want to tell them to give the kids anything to do, because a lot of the kids will feel like they have to do it, even if it's optional.
Yeah, let them eat lunch.
We need them to just kind of, I don't want to say back off, but they need a break during the day. If any of us went from 8 to 2 every day, or 8:30 to 2 o'clock every day without a real break, I think we'd find it very, very difficult and stressful too. So I'm going to meet with the teachers about that as well. So that was one of the things that I had on my agenda that I wanted to share with you. And I thought it tied in well to the first topic of 8th grade meetings and really just in general, small group meetings across the grades. And those are happening now.
And you know what, Justin, I think it would be really beneficial if we were to get that out to the school community and maybe let the kids know, due to their communication with us and their suggestion about that we're doing it, just so they feel like they're being heard as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can help me work on that.
Sure.
You're always very good at that. I want to meet with the teachers first, because I know some of the teachers I know are not going to be happy about that, right? For a number of reasons, right? We have teachers who are not involved in this, who might sort of feel like, oh, how come they get a teaching period that is not maybe as stressful as, my teaching period.
Let's not worry about that.
Right.
Worry about the kids.
Murphy, excuse me, Murphy, don't do that.
Talk about worrying about the kids.
No, I'm sorry. No, he's gonna knock
Dog.
a bunch of stuff off the table.
His dog is running down the beach right now.
No, come on.
He may be chasing.
No, I have. Oh, now you're gonna come back this way again? All right.
Yeah, they'll be happy about this break. I think so.
I think so. I think everyone.
They will.
Yes.
They need it. A lot of the kids have been
They can ask
expressing
them.
it.
Even the screen time for the eyes.
Yeah.
The other people who aren't going to be thrilled about it are the elective teachers who are going to lose yet another period with the kids. And some of the parents might not love it either because those are generally elective periods. We can't have everything, and we really need the kids to have that break. I think it's more valuable that the kids have the break right now. So I just wanted to update you with that. If anybody has any comments or sort of feels any differently. I mean, if we're all on the same page, great. We don't have to beat a dead horse. But if anybody feels differently about that.
Well, maybe since some of these elective teachers have so many classes and they're going to see them even less, maybe we could create a little broader grading scale. You know, it's like for those classes to say, hey, you're going to get a 95. And, you know, when they're not seeing them much, maybe, I've always said pass fail as a possibility. Obviously, not too many people, we're not looking to fail people, but, something that's a little bit broader, where it puts a little less stress on the teachers to try to create a grade for 400 kids that they're seeing once every 2 weeks or something.
Well, we'll talk about that with them at the meeting tomorrow for sure.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
sure that's going to come up. And yeah, we want to do what's best for the kids. That's really what we want.
Absolutely.
All right, great. Let's move on then.
Okay. I'm sorry. Let me look at the agenda here.
Fun activities.
Fun activities being planned. Yeah, I know that I went to a meeting and I think it was for 7th grade things, and Miss Gasser had all these great ideas, Miss Brianne Gasser. That's what made me put that on the agenda. But, generally when it comes to SEL, we're looking for all different ways to reach the kids, whether it's communication, but fun activities, building school spirit, making them feel connected to something, which I think our school always did feel like. And it's very hard to do that now. It's a challenge. And one way we're trying to do it is by lightening the mood a little, humanizing the teachers maybe to some of the kids that, are staring at the computer screen. I don't know if you guys have any ideas with that, but I know that some really cool things came out.
Well, yeah, if I may, Mr. Feil, there's a lot more behind what you just said than meets the eye. And I want to just sort of bring that up because it's very, very important. Back last spring and last winter, those of you who are on the leadership team will remember that we were in the throes of hiring a 4th assistant principal. We determined that there really was a need, given the growth in our special education department and in our school and the different kinds of things that were going on. We really felt that that was a need that we had identified, and we were deeply in the middle of the process of hiring another assistant principal. Well, in came the pandemic, all basically changed, and that plan was modified significantly. Now, fast forward, what we're finding now is that we still have the same needs as we had before. And rather than look outside the schools, what we were doing, we sort of looked inside and really found that the 7th grade students and the special ed students really were not engaged the way we really wanted them to be with the kinds of activities that we really wanted to see happen. And so we have now Miss Gasser, who is working now very much like an academy facilitator. I guess that's the best analogy. We don't have academies now, but for a long time, we had a teacher who was the facilitator for the Academy for Arts and Humanities, who dealt with all things student. And it was a very productive way for our school to operate. And I think looking at that model now with Ms. Gasser working in that role is really starting to pay dividends already in how she's been able to follow up with teachers in activities that are planned for the children. I know there's a holiday movie scavenger hunt coming up pretty soon before the holiday, and there's a litany of other activities that are planned for the 7th grade that I know the 8th grade and the 6th grade have been participating in, and they've had activities. If you haven't checked out the 7th grade classroom page, I would encourage you to do that if you have a 7th grader and you have access to that. Have a look at that. And you can also look at the 7th grade page on is187.com. Related to that, I know our swerve, maybe I'm not sure if I'm off track or not, but I'm going to include this with activities. The swerve is still alive. The swerve is our student, I don't want to call it a literary magazine, but it's a compilation of
Creative communication.
creative communication. Thank you, Mr. Feil. Whether it's art, poetry, writing, music, comedy, skits, dialogues, all kinds of activities. So I know Mr. Savarese is working on that. And I've also been working with Mr. Savarese to square away plans for the 8th grade yearbook, which is going to look very different this year from other yearbooks, basically because we won't have the kinds of pictures that we normally fill up a yearbook with, whether they're pictures from trips or around the school and so forth. So it's going to be very much more of a creative piece. And I think Mrs. Lochisano, as an 8th grade ELA teacher, you're going to be deeply involved with, helping to select some of and create some of the activities and select some of the work that perhaps the students would like to represent their work and their year.
Definitely.
In the
Sounds
year.
great.
Yeah. So that's going on. We're going to stick with the yearbook company that we used last year, and really come together with a book that'll be special for the students. Right now, we don't have any plans to collect senior dues from the kids. If we don't have to collect senior dues, we won't. We'll see what kind of expenses that we can absorb, and together with the PTA, hopefully we can keep any untoward expenses going our parents' way. We'll talk about the budget when we get to that, but those are a couple of the activities that I wanted to talk about. Oh, I guess related to that, I'll bring that up now also. I mentioned with Mr. LaBella for school photos, in particular 8th grade photos. We've worked with the Class Act. Class Act has created a studio on Flatbush Avenue and Avenue P, which is a little, it's not around the block, but it's available, and they're running through a small school within the next 2 weeks to make sure that, everything is going to run smoothly before they choose a big school. And we'll have an opportunity there for families to have graduation and school photos in a safe environment. Again, I know it may not be the most convenient place to get to, but I think it's important that we make sure that it's safe, and we'll check it out and make sure. Any questions? I know I just sort of went through a bunch of stuff.
Yes. Sounds good. I think we're also going to have Vito. You're on the agenda too. I think I might not have put the PTO update, but we would appreciate that as well. But I think.
Oh, no worries. Tomorrow evening is going to be busy. Place New York City has a high school workshop it's a citywide thing that one of our co-president put something together. Very nice, very knowledgeable woman, Yatin Chu. She's put this together based upon her experiences and her research with her friends in the DOE. And it's very similar to what Mrs. D does. She does it every year, I know. And I know that, look, this hasn't been presented we're not the only ones that haven't presented this, right? Because I'm sure that everybody's waiting for concrete information. But a lot of parents are just so stressed, as you've indicated, 8th graders, parents are stressed as well. And so people contacted us asking us to do this seminar. So we're doing that tomorrow evening. I sent out the link for it. If anybody didn't get the link, please PM me and I'll send it out again to you privately. So the same night, tomorrow evening at 6, we have the District 20 CEC meetings. On the agenda is an attempt to get a new president of the CEC, as well as speak about, there's 2 resolutions pending. One is to expand the G&T program, as well as to request objective measures to populate District 20 screen schools, i.e. 187, as well as District 20 superintendent programs using metrics such as state test scores from 3rd grade, as well as the grades from March of 2020, right before we went into lockdown. So we are asking that we use those 2 metrics. We're asking that for equity's sake, we eliminate the metric of attendance and lateness, not just this year, but going forward. My personal feeling is that if a kid is competitive with state test scores and grades and they have some absences, maybe that kid is doing something really well, right? I mean, maybe we should give them extra points for being able to be competitive and miss some days of school. So that's where we are with that resolution. And the second resolution is a resolution we put together because of testing requirements in school. And maybe if Ms. Siddiqui's here, she could, if we do go back to school, which I'm guessing won't be until, after January. And please, somebody correct me if I'm wrong on this. The city, in agreement with the DOEs, requiring 20% of all people in the building to be tested weekly. Is that correct so far?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
But they're also requiring that everybody give consent for testing.
And everyone has to give. You don't got that piece of paper, you ain't coming in.
Right.
So that's, yeah, go ahead, sir. Anything?
Nope.
Okay. So the issue among parents is, first of all, no one that I know is objecting to testing. I think it's common. My view as a CEC member and as an individual is, if you object to testing, then you stay home and go remote, right? There is no logical excuse, or is no logical reason why you say, I don't want my kid tested and I want my kid to go to school. That just, doesn't make any sense to me. I think that that's unreasonable. The other issue is not testing itself, but the administration of the test. And as we know, through no fault of anybody here in this school, of course, the DOE is not allowing parents to bring their own test, and they're not allowing parents to observe the testing in the school. So I think that goes against CDC guidelines as far as compelling someone to take a test and telling a kid that he can't come to school if he takes this test. That's coercion in a legal sense, and that's not an option that is palatable to that person or to the child. So it's not really consent that's freely given. The same thing with New York State. New York State guidelines says that children should be able to provide their own test from their own providers, right? And we have testing sites all over the city. We have testing sites in Bay Ridge, I know, and that we certainly could have a parent could bring a child to that testing site and get a test and have it uploaded in a timely fashion, right? And then the other possibility is allowing a parent who's worried to observe the test at the school, right? If that's the issue. And so there's a couple of asks that we're going to do. We're going to ask for the child to be brought to a separate isolation room, to be brought outside, under a tent possibly, maybe FaceTime or Zoom while the test is being conducted. And, you know, I figure it would be a pain in the neck for our administrator, Ms. Siddiqui, and the guidance counselor who has to accompany the child, but it's not an unreasonable ask. I mean, 50 kids is 20% of the 250. How many parents are going to avail themselves of this? What, a handful, 10%, 5?
I'm gonna disagree with your position on this.
That's fine.
I actually agree with the DOE completely.
That's fine.
I think the test takes about 30 seconds. I think if you're not comfortable with your kid being tested, we offer the option of staying home. And I think that it should, for quality control, it should be a test given at the school. They know who's giving it. And I don't think we should have parents coming to school and watching. I actually think that what they're doing is reasonable. But if you feel it's not legal or it goes against guidelines, you know.
So listen,
the other side.
And this is my position as an unpaid elected official, right? Because that's what I am, right? I'm an unpaid elected official. And my daughter Morgan, I don't care if she was in 4th grade, I would be more than happy to go in, and I trust Ms. Siddiqui and Mr. Berman and whoever's observing this test to keep her safe, right? And I would tell her, Morgan, if you're uncomfortable, suck it up and just don't worry about it.
Exactly.
That's veto. Okay, that's veto.
Or just cry and they won't give you the test.
Well, I don't know. Is that going to be the case?
Another thing I thought was ridiculous, but I'm glad that my point of view seems to be
right. So if a kid is anxious now, that's a legitimate question, right? So if a kid is anxious now with these new guidelines and you can't give the test, are we going to send them home?
There will be guidelines for that.
Okay, so then we got another guideline, right? But so listen, so this is not about Vito and Morgan, right? These are parents that I can't listen. We had a world-renowned gymnastic physician sexually abuse high school girls for years. For years, he did that. Okay, I'm not going to tell a parent who's anxious of a 3rd or 4th grader that their fears are completely 100% unfounded. Okay, I'm not going to do that. It's not my place to do that. So there is a lawsuit going to be dropped. I don't personally support it, but I support the parents' rights to avail themselves of whatever opportunity they choose. And if you're interested in that, discussing that, if you're interested in the CEC, pro or against, please come, sign up, and let your opinion be heard. And that's it. That's my feelings on those things. I would really like, I mean, Jeff, I appreciate you commenting. Mm-hmm. You know, I love discussion about this. I think I'd appreciate some comment from the other parents.
Yes. Anyone feel strongly about this? I kind of do feel strongly about this, but again, and I have kids, and I wish they had that testing program going in my kids' school in Long Island, and I would insist that they were tested, even if it stressed them out. But again, like Vito said,
I can share with you my feeling. My feeling is if you're going to test everyone, testing 20% isn't enough. Test everyone.
20% a week. You can't test 200 kids in one day.
Of course you can. You know how easy it is to test? It takes them minutes. It's not. It's an exterior swab of your nostril with a
right, but it's not that. That would be a whole different game, though. Having gone through it, you know, to do it quickly with a few kids is nothing. But to have the whole school down there, it's more.
Not in one day, over the course of the week. Everybody needs to test it.
They don't have the resources to test.
It doesn't make sense to only test 20% of the people. It seems like it seems, you know, I mean, I guess it's better than nothing, but
it's the random sample.
It's like drug testing.
Yeah, but the one person who's sick that gets through infects everybody or a whole lot of people.
Right.
So the point is to prevent that one person. If you want to prevent it, anyway, you know what? We're beating a dead horse. The rule is you got to take it, you got to have consent, and that's the end of it. No matter what we think, we could argue about it. We could say right or wrong. You know, we could spend all afternoon talking about it. But I think we have other things to talk about anyway. So
okay,
let's move on.
All right, no problem.
You know, there's nothing we can do about it.
John Patrick Hederman, do you want to talk about NIA a little bit? Oh, what happened? Your hair changed very quickly.
Put it up. How are we doing?
Glasses back on.
Nice work.
So as Mr. Berman was saying a couple of things, John Savarese has been running, the Swerve is going, the yearbook's happening, lots of kids participating in these activities. We've been doing some pickups for some certain classes that I've been buying supplies in order for the students to work at home with the teachers. And it's been going great. They've been showing up. And then the third thing that that's come up already is the show called Do You Read Me? And they're getting towards the end. And I was just on the phone with Mr. Kaplan earlier. They are planning on putting together an edited recording instead of a final live performance, but doing a live stream of it so that it'll just exist digitally. Now, this is what I told him I would bring to everyone here. The idea, he said that YouTube's probably one of the best platforms for him, and that there's places where we can sell tickets if we want to, even if it was $2 or something. In the past, that has drawn more interest at the school building. Now, I don't know if that would be a positive or a negative that we're at home. And so, yeah, that's kind of an opinion-based thing. So if anyone, how they would feel about that, do you think that's going to deter students from coming, or it might draw them in if it's a $2 to attend a performance?
I think kids don't have a way to pay.
I did say that to Mr. Kaplan. I said that is involving a parent's credit card then, yeah.
And why are we doing that? Why would we do that?
To
It's
increase-
just that
To create a buzz and have more kids want to come. Like, in other
Yeah.
words, if you
it
give
does work at
nobody
school when we
wants
do
it.
that. As a free event gets less people than charging $2 or $3, it usually you get more attendance.
Wow, talk about psychology, huh?
It's possible. It's possible.
So I don't know.
But
I do.
I think if we're involved in credit cards and stuff, it might be wise to scrap that plan.
Yeah. I'm not.
I think it's going to make it more difficult. I think if it was, bring $2, I think the kids have $2 to bring, but to sign up online and do the whole, and there's probably a charge for collecting money like that, and it may wipe out whatever. And I know we're not doing this to make money, but at the same time, that does create a problem if you're collecting money. You have to account for that.
Yeah.
That's a problem also, because there's really no way to account for that. Where's the money going? Into whose account?
Yeah.
School
That's a whole. I guess we need more information from Mr. Kaplan.
Yeah. I would avoid the fee right now. I would say there's other ways that we could perhaps create desire to attend.
Yeah.
Perhaps maybe, if you watch till the third commercial, the code word will flash and, you get a homework pass. I don't know.
Yeah, something.
Something.
Good idea.
Something,
And so then they're just
maybe
they're
we
gonna
can
have
do
to
like a scavenger hunt or something like that with the play or something, or maybe submit trivia answers for prizes or something afterwards or something like that. See, that's stuff that we could, spend money on. We could buy Amazon gift cards and things like that. That's easy to do.
All right.
So
I'll be speaking to him again tomorrow. We could talk about some other ideas. The last thing they're working on, they should know by Friday if they're going to have it ready. The original deadline they were trying for the Friday before the break. But now that everything has kind of been pushed back and we've been in school, out of school, all kinds of things, they're debating if using the time over the break, because the kids are editing as well, might be to their benefit. So we might just do the first week in January.
I don't think there's any rush to get it out.
Yeah.
I'd rather them be proud and comfortable with the product than have a rush job.
Yeah. It's not going to be like a fun holiday last day of school thing anyway, I feel like. So,
well, it could be, but maybe just, it doesn't necessarily have to be with that.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah, that's where we're going for now.
Great. Thanks. Any questions for John? NIA, any ideas, any concerns?
Oh, one other thing. Speaking of Brianne Gasser before, she has just reinstated the Lynx Club will be starting up again, which we've been doing. For those who didn't know, was pairing gen ed and special ed students. They used to have an in-person thing during lunch hours, but now she's reworking it all. But so I'm excited to see where it goes. They had the first interest meeting this week, and they're going to try to see how many kids they get excited into it, and then get it going for the winter and the spring.
Right.
Parent kids
Not
up.
just special ed students, it's with our ACES students.
Yes.
So they act as a buddy, but they also learn about the disability and learn about ways that they can specifically engage with students and others who have that disability as well. So it's a two-way street. They both benefit from the relationship. It's, shall we say, symbiotic.
Quite.
Yes.
Indeed.
All right, should we go on?
I just wanted to join the crowd.
May
Okay.
may I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Of course.
I missed the 8th grade meeting that Ms. McGar had with the 8th grade parents.
Mhm.
And I know she's not in this meeting, but is there someone that can sort of report out of what, if anything, interesting came up in that meeting?
Sure, I can. Basically, it was very much about high schools. Parents had a lot of questions about high schools, and unfortunately, we had very little answers about high school. Mrs. Demazatowski ran through a lot of the process. I will say I took a look at the presentation that Mr. LaBella talked about that's going to be happening with PLACE, and it's a very, very good. I highly recommend it for those who are unfamiliar with the high school process. Parents really asked great questions about schools. Is this school better than that school? What do we do about these schools? And the takeaway was really start doing research now, if you haven't already, and research programs and schools that extend beyond perhaps a small circle. Because if specialized schools are not available, there are schools that have other programs that are very, very good. And we spent a lot of time talking about the idea that the specialized high schools aren't necessarily the best schools for kids anyway. And that we've had kids excel from Fort Hamilton, from New Utrecht. And when we're talking about excelling, we're talking about getting full scholarships to Ivy League schools, that kind of excelling from schools who are not specialized high schools. And for example, with students who realize that perhaps it's better for me to not be, 12th in my class where I have to work every waking hour, when I can actually have a life and be number 1 or 2 in my class, and contribute to the world in other ways, which, by the way, are really what Ivy League high school, Ivy League colleges are looking for. They're looking for how you made an impact in the world around you, not what kind of grades you got. Grades, there's so many kids have grades. They have perfect grades. They're number 1 in their school and all of that. That's not what they're looking for. That's not what they're looking for. 1 in 10 with perfect grades get into an Ivy League school.
Yeah.
1 in 10.
And we also had one of our former students come on who was just, fantastic person. And she was talking about how she did not get into Stuyvesant and how she was upset about it for a brief, period of time, and how the school sort of gave her a pep talk and don't worry about it, you'll do great anywhere. And she went to Brooklyn Tech, and, lo and behold, she's excelling and she's found a community. So I think that was valuable because, there's always parents who, are dead set on Stuyvesant usually. And, all the specialized schools are good. And like Mr. Berman said, there's lots of other schools that kids do great at, from Fort Hamilton Honors to Midwood and New Utrecht. New Utrecht's a neighborhood school. We had a kid who went there who ended up in Harvard. We had someone, or Princeton. And then we had someone recently who went to Midwood. And I remember this kid was very upset that she didn't make specialized schools. And now she is in Harvard and doing great. So, to some extent, not going to those schools and going to a school where, you may stand out a little bit more, might even give you an edge when you apply to college. So, we're trying to tell kids to keep an open mind and to spend time with that aspect of their application. So we spent some time about that at the meeting. And we wish we had more, information.
Yeah. The other part of the meeting was very much about parents remaining engaged and alert to what's going on with kids at home. And one of the examples that I used, just to cut right to it, I shouldn't have used that one, but okay, was cutting, right? Teens will often, not revert, but not often, but some teens will cut themselves as a way to express feelings that they have, whatever that may be. And when we're in school, we are much more attuned to those things because it's easier to see the kids and it's easier to see the differences in the kids. For example, I can't see any of your arms right now. I don't know if you're wearing a short sleeve shirt or a long sleeve shirt. Kids who cut themselves wear long sleeve shirts so that they can't be seen. We don't know that anymore. So if there's a student who, for example, is constantly, twitching and playing and has their arms covered, that can be a warning sign for us. Hey, what's going on? Maybe you might want to, let's have a chat with the guidance counselor, right? And we learn a lot of things that way. But being in the environment that we're at, that is a remote environment, there's a lot of things going on that we just can't see. And we need parents to continue to monitor their kids, see what's going on. We've had a number of attempted suicides this year, not ideations. And it's really scary and concerning for our kids. And that was another big part of the 8th grade meeting. And just, we understand the fact that we understand that the kids are under stress and we have these SEL activities and opportunities for the kids to have fun and so forth. We just still need parents to maybe even be a little bit more vigilant and engaged. We're seeing things with it, part of it too is senioritis, and maybe it's coming a little earlier. They're seniors, they're sort of flexing a little bit, and I'm sure they see kids in other schools. They have friends in other schools who maybe don't have the kinds of schedules that they have, right? Well, why do I have to do such a hard schedule? And my friends at school X or Y, they don't have to do that, So I think that's part of it. That's part of it too.
It's also not quite as engaging to take these classes through the computer. As much as we're trying, I know I speak to my own kids. They're staring at the computer screen. I say, "How was your day?" They're boring. And again, I think the teachers are doing a fantastic job, and everyone's doing their very, very best. But it's just not the same as going to school, the energy of a school building. So I think that's part of it also. And keeping kids, motivated is a challenge. I don't know if it's senioritis so much as I'm tired of, I've had this since March, and this is not a tremendous amount of fun. I think that's an issue. But echoing what Mr. Berman said, talk to your kids, see how they're feeling, communicate with your kids, be understanding.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily be as, I don't want to use the word unforgiving, but there's that balance between I hear what you're saying and you have a job to do like everyone else. You got to do what you have to do to keep up with your work. So it's really, in a way, I guess we're preaching to the choir. These are the parents that are here are very involved parents, but some of, our families are not as involved on a social emotional level with their kids. They're used to working long hours and, we have that on a normal basis. It might be a little more stressful now with everything going on. So, we're trying to encourage that every which way we possibly can, because that's job one, that's the most important thing. The academics are behind the well-being of the kids. Always has been. I know that Mr. Berman, Ms. Siddiqui, and everyone says, our job, number one, is to keep your kids safe.
Yeah.
So now we can't do that as well. So we're asking for you guys to help.
Yeah. And Ms. Wong mentioned the trauma-informed instruction training that Mr. Kaplan started with our staff. I want to let you know that last week we completed session 2. There were 37 teachers who volunteered to come to that session, the second session after the first one. So it tells you the first one was real good, or they wouldn't have come to the second one. and the second training gave the teachers some very specific strategies to use in the classroom to help all children, not just children who might be dealing with trauma. And the first meeting was very much about talking about what trauma is and how children may be impacted by trauma in a lot of different ways, whether it's through personal loss of a family member, or things going on in the home with family members losing jobs or having to move, or friends being sick. Well, there's so many different things going on that are impacting our children. So yeah. So it was a very, very good meeting. So thank you for asking about that, Effie. Appreciate it.
Sorry, someone just joined. Sorry, with the 347 number.
I think that's Amy Tung. Well, is it?
It's me.
Oh, there you are.
I see you here.
Okay. Do we need to admit you? Let's admit you then.
Yeah, she's
Since
here.
you're already here.
Ah,
I just
okay.
wanted to make sure it was not Kathy, because she's the only one.
Okay.
And Miss Siddiqui's here now.
Yes,
Hi,
hello,
Ms.
Ms. Siddiqui.
Hi, I'm so sorry.
Okay. We knew we know you might not be able to attend, but thank you for coming.
Can I ask one
Wait,
more
so
question?
should we go on? Oh, I'm sorry. Who was that?
Can I ask one more question? This is Effie
Of course,
again.
please.
So I went from, following everything that was happening with all the schools and all of Mayor de Blasio's and Chancellor Carranza's decisions obsessively to, I think, maybe spacing out a little bit about all of it. But I have to admit, I was a little surprised when they announced that kids are going to be going back to school 5 days a week.
No,
And I'm just wondering, no?
not true.
Okay. Because I also was wondering, I did read that, as Vito had mentioned, it looks like middle and high school students won't be going back until the new year, and we'll see how that goes. But so you haven't gotten any guidance. They're not going to be going back. Are they going to be going back to school 5 days a week, or have you heard anything about that? I guess that's my question.
It's a great question. And
Okay.
we absolutely looked at the ability to bring even some kids back 5 days a week. For example, our self-contained special education students. It's not going to happen. We cannot do it. We don't have the room, and we don't have the staff members. So Mayor de Blasio would love for everyone to go back to school 5 days a week, and he's encouraging that. He's not providing any resources to be able to do that. We are still under the same space restrictions that we were under before. The CDC has not changed the guidelines. I don't see them changing the guidelines anytime soon. So that reduces the space that we're allowed and that we can use according to CDC guidelines. The other issue is he's already let people who have accommodations know they're going to be home until June. So where are the people who are going to teach the students who are coming back 5 days a week? They're at home. So at the very best we could possibly do is have the children come to school, sit in a room supervised by perhaps a school aide, being taught by a teacher who's home remotely. There are plenty of schools who do that. Brooklyn Tech does that now. We're not going to do that. I don't like that idea at all. I'm not even going to entertain that idea. So
I don't think Brooklyn, I got to jump in and defend Brooklyn Tech a bit. It's Stuyvesant that's doing that, not Brooklyn Tech.
okay, I take it back. Some schools are doing that. Never mind the names. Some schools are doing that. We're not going to do that.
Could have Alexa teaching the class.
Yes, that's right. So, and then to answer your other point about schools opening or closing, right? So when we do open, we will have the same model that we had when we were open in November. So that's not changing for us. We still have cohorts A, B, C, D is remote, E are the 5 days a week ACES students in our special ed program. None of that's changing. The children will have the same schedules. When is school opening? We don't know. We have no information other than schools are closed indefinitely. So do I foresee schools opening before the break? No, I don't see that, because they'd have to give schools at least a week to open, and they just open the elementary schools. If they decided next week they wanted to open the middle schools, we'd be opening January 1st when we come back. So if they are indeed going to open January 1st or after the new year, they're going to have to let schools know that pretty soon, because they really need to give schools time to prepare the reopening, unless they figure everybody's going to work through their holiday break, which I can assure you our staff is not going to do.
How long do you need, Mr. Berman?
Not going to allow that. We don't need any time at all. We're ready to go. But there are a lot of schools who do need time. They can't just tell schools, okay, open up tomorrow. Right? It doesn't
No,
work.
we're good. We're very good. I just don't think I can make it up the stairs right now.
With a mask on.
Yeah, especially with a mask on, it's a little hard going up 4 flights.
Oh, you're telling me.
Jeff, who's on the phone now.
My knee was killing me.
I thought I was going to hyperventilate.
Yeah, I don't miss that.
So I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you. That was sort of what I thought. I mean, as far as you know, are there any, elementary schools that are trying to go 5 days a week? I mean, is anyone really actually trying to do this? Any schools?
I think there are schools who would love to go 5 days a week. I would love to open our school 5 days a week too. It's just not possible.
Yeah, well, that's what I was, yeah.
I don't know what other elementary schools are doing. Maybe they didn't have anybody 5 days a week, and now they're bringing some 5 days a week. I just don't know.
I mean, I think that this is just my thought. I think they should bring the elementary school people back and use some of the middle schools and high schools where, they want to remain remote. And, those kids are on subways and buses. I think that would make some sense to expand. But it seems like, I know that would be very difficult to do, but, from what I'm hearing, it's much harder to educate the younger kids remotely than it is the older kids. I think especially high school kids that want to learn, they can adapt to this. But, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, they really can't. I mean, I'm hearing that from more and more people. So maybe eventually that'll catch on. I think in our school, the kids who were all remote are in a better position than the blended kids, because I don't think the social gain that I had hoped for exists as much. In talking to kids, I do hear that, because they're in one room, they're wearing masks, they're spread out. It's not exactly school like we remember it. Yeah. So unfortunately, I think we all had that feeling, and we've been trying to build up the, I guess, the school spirit, and doing anything we can do to add some energy to the building. So.
Well, that's where those activities come in, and that's where having that extra support person, having those people to really follow up with the students and not let kids fall through the cracks.
Oh, Vito, I think Vito raised his hand.
Oh, I have.
I don't know why I laughed.
Vito LaBella raised his hand. Yes, young Vito.
No. If we're finished here, I just had a separate question. If we're done, I don't want to interrupt them.
Well, we are, and I do want to spend a little time going over some budget items, because there are 2 important things at least that I want to go over.
This is budget related in a way.
Great segue. Go for it.
Okay, so how are we making out with Title I? I know I sent that email out. Do we know how we do? When do we update about? I know I had a handful of parents told
Let me
me
bring
they
everybody
did
up to speed. So I got a call yesterday from our budget office, and they told us that we are very, very close to achieving Title I status. What that means is at least $600,000 for at least 2 years for our school. So there were about 100 families or so who did, about 120 families who did not fill out their lunch forms. And if we had about a third of those who qualified for free lunch, then we'll achieve Title I status for next year, which is hugely significant for us, for any school.
Do you know what the family income is? Because I tried to find it and I couldn't anywhere.
I don't know offhand what the maximum to make for, I don't know. That I do not know.
Shouldn't be so hard to find. I researched it yesterday. I couldn't find it anywhere, right? Like that's a secret somewhere. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know that. I'm sorry. So did you have another budget question, or that was
it? You did it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So more to come on that, and the deadline is the 21st of December. So what we're doing about that is we're not sending emails. Well, I know Mr. LaBella sent an email, but we're making individual phone calls now and saying, look, parents, we need you to fill out this form. Please fill out the form. Here's what happens if you don't fill out the form, right? So, we have our staff working on that full time.
It is very easy. I did it yesterday.
It doesn't take long. Other budget issues. So, I gave you the budget documents last month, and I know I said that we would go over some budget stuff. We can do that if you like now, and we could spend 20 minutes or so going through some of that now, if you like. We can table that for the next meeting if you like. But one of the things that I do want to share with you is that our budget is based on our registers, meaning the numbers of kids who are actually in our school. And not just the numbers of kids, but the services that the children need. So for example, children who need ENL services require additional services, right? So that costs more money. So they bring along more money with them. Special education students require more services. So they bring along more money with them. So the collective body of students is what generates the funds for our budget. Now, if those students, each year, in order to fund a school, projected budgets are allocated to schools. So they'll look at our numbers of students last year, how many ICT students, how many self-contained students, how many students, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. How many students do you predict to have next year? Okay, great. They figure all that out. Okay, this is the amount of money we project you will need. Sometimes you need more. Sometimes they give you too much. When would you need more? If you had more students come than you expected. That never happens in our school for obvious reasons, right? We know exactly who's coming, right? They've taken a test and they're on an application and we know exactly who's coming. So we never get more than that, but sometimes the kids don't come. So we've projected that those students would come and they don't come. What that means is we have to give the money back, right? So November 12th was the day this year. It's normally October 31st, but they delayed it. November 12th. They take a snapshot of the kids who are on your register that day. That's what you're funded on. So what does that mean for us? In a nutshell, right now, we put $140,000 in a set aside in the beginning of the year. because we knew they gave us too much money. They always give us too much money. And we know that. We put it aside. If we get to keep it, great, we get to keep it, but at least we don't run out of money and owe money at the end. That we won't do. We're more responsible than that, right? So we put $140,000. We lost a few more kids than that. How many more kids? About 8, which translates to about $40,000. So we need to put another $40,000 in addition to the $140 that we put away into that set aside, and that the city will take back after December 31st. Why December 31st? Well, they will do the same thing they did to our general education registers with our special education registers. We still have some changes going on with some of our students' IEPs, right? Especially some of the 6th graders, because they come, we don't really get to know them. Sometimes the elementary schools do really stupid things with their IEPs. They're not getting the right services, right? So we make adjustments. We don't do it right away. We meet the students. We make sure that we know who they are and we know what their needs are. So it's those changes. So right now we had to put $40,000 away in addition to, so it's about $180,000. That still leaves us, we estimated about $500,000 in the last budget. There's still about $430,000 there. Some of that money we will use, of course, to pay subs that we have who are working full time with us, teaching our classes, whether it's because we have teachers on sabbatical or other reasons. And so, yeah, so I just wanted to let you know about that set aside. We'll know in February whether all of that money is actually going to be kept or if we get some of that back. I project that we're probably going to get back around 30,000 based on the changes to the IEPs that I see that have not been reflected in the modifications that they're making now. So we're still in very, very good shape, and we're not spending a lot of money, right? Because we don't have a lot of teachers who are absent since everybody's home, right? So we're not spending a lot of money this year. Do you want me to spend some time now going over our budget, or is that something perhaps we should wait for next month when we have some of the students here so that they don't miss that? I don't know. It's really entirely up to you. I know we've been meeting since 3 o'clock. I'm good. I can keep going. But I don't know about the rest of you. So I'm trying to just gauge from you what you'd like to do. I think we covered everything in our agenda. Did we? Yeah.
I don't think we talked about graduation ideas. I know that was on the agenda. Did we talk about that? Did I miss that?
Well, I talked about
No.
graduates. We talked about yearbook. We talked about, we didn't talk about a venue, if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's just something that I'm sure we'll be discussing as we go forward and try to figure out what we're going to do.
There's not much to discuss about it now, just that we just don't know if we can have a graduation, you know, if we can do that. We just don't know.
Okay.
We just don't know. But so are we feeling like we want to do a budget lesson now?
I think it would make more sense to wait so that, you know, we're not kind of revisiting it again after the December 31st, you know, changes.
Okay. Anybody feel otherwise? Happy to do it. All right. So Winnie, why don't you put that on on the top, and we'll do that in the beginning while everybody's fresh.
Yeah.
And,
I was looking at the what Vito was talking about for the the free lunch eligibility. Is that what you were trying to find, Vito?
Yes, yes.
And it said that for free meals, income of $32,630 for a family of 4, up to $32,630 for a family of 4. So if we have families that fit into that category out of that 120 left that still need to, I guess, fill out the form.
Thank you, Winnie. Where did you find that? I'm just curious.
I Googled DOE lunch form Title I,
Okay.
but it's on, I'll link the site.
No, I mean, I usually can find that stuff. I was annoyed at
New York
myself.
State.
more than anything
And
else.
Rusty there, Mr. LaBella.
I know.
Those are on AOL.
Bills.
That's
You gotta
good.
put a
He's
youngin'
hanging
on
out
it.
too much in his
Yeah.
neighborhood.
You need a young Padawan on it.
Can I just ask another question? So, Mr. Feil, what did you do for 8th grade graduation last year? Did you do? I mean, I know a lot of schools were doing like drive-bys and all that kind of stuff. What did you guys do?
Well,
Yeah.
maybe Mr. Berman will take it. We definitely didn't have the traditional graduation.
No, we had a brief virtual graduation. That was pretty much it. It was,
Oh, okay.
I think we'll do better this year.
Yeah, this year we have a little more time to prepare and a little more idea what's going on. But
It might be fun. I mean, I don't know if you're already doing this. Maybe when we get the kids, I mean, I can ask my daughter, but it might be fun to get some input from the kids. Maybe they would have some good idea
Well,
about
no
how they
question.
would like to see.
We did have a
virtual.
meeting about a week or so ago, and we brainstormed some ideas, and really the feeling is very much to try and have something in person. Even if we had to rent tents for the schoolyard and have one class at a time do a graduation
Yeah.
and do it 10 times for the 10 classes. Something in person so that, it's special for the kids and the families, because it is a special event. So even if, something like that, or maybe do 2 classes at a time over the course of a week, it's hard to determine what that could even look like yet, because, I mean, I have to tell you, I watch very little TV. If it's not Big Bang Theory or like, one of the Avengers movies, I don't watch it. I mean, I just don't watch TV. So I happened to put on World News Tonight the other day, and it's like, oh my God, like the world is coming to an end. If you look and see what's going on everywhere, it's like hospitals are getting overrun, and it's just horrible what's going on out there. And then I'm thinking, geez, even to think about a graduation, I can't even imagine that schools are open. They're talking about closing all non-essential services. Why would they keep schools open? I don't get that. If everybody's home, if non-essential services are all closed and everybody's home, why send the kids to school?
I think what the thought process is that a lot of the kids are struggling emotionally with being so disconnected. But I agree with
a
you.
lot if they get COVID-19 and get sick.
Right. I think we have to kill this pandemic. So I am in agreement that we need to be smart.
We need to be smart, whatever it is. So again, but everyone is very much interested in having a very special live event for our graduates this year in whatever form that could look like. And, if there is some expense to that and whatever time it takes, that's what we want to do. I remember when I was much, much younger, in my concert going days, I went to a Genesis concert. No, I'm sorry. It was a Phil Collins concert. It was Phil Collins. I like Genesis, Phil Collins, really, really cool stuff. But I remember his first song, he was on the stage and then he just like disappeared and he appeared somewhere else. It was a hologram. So I got to figure out, I mean, that was like a long time ago. So they have to have gotten better. So I really want to be at the graduation. I can't not be there. So
Berman hologram.
Berman hologram. That's right. I'm going to do that. Like Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. I just watched that last night.
We got a smart board. I can zoom you. No worries.
I have a lot of rocks here. I'll go on the rocks. I'll get into the phones, and I'll do the.
We will definitely have you zoomed in.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes, Ray.
Yes.
Very cool. All right. So that was a graduation update there.
Yep.
Any,
I
you know,
sorry, it's Sandra here. I have a question for
Yeah.
regarding graduation because I do have an 8th grader this year. And I know in the past that, obviously parents of 8th graders are not included in the graduation committee, but given that it's, so unique, I'm not asking for more meetings, but, how can we as 8th grade parents maybe contribute ideas? Like, for example, I think, given the pandemic, it's, things like, I know from my older son who graduated, about two years ago, the thing we cherish from that is, the nice photograph we have of, our graduating student with Mr. Berman. And, we even blew that up to 8 by 10. So, I mean, maybe we can, how do we provide input if that is possible?
Now there'll be a committee after you told Mr. Berman this.
Yeah. This group right here is a great way to do that. And Mr. Feil is really our graduation coordinator. And I would say, it would be great to put together a committee, the Feil, and we talked about that with Mrs. McGar leading up the 8th grade this year. I know she's working on putting that committee together. So, Jeff, why don't you talk with Mrs. McGar and do invite Mrs. Song and maybe some other parents too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this year more than any year,
yeah,
we need a little creativity, and the fact that you have contacts outside, you have elementary and high school contacts, right? So maybe with all that information, we could steal some ideas and put it all together and come up with something really nice. So yeah, I'll talk to Ro about it tomorrow, and see what
I would like to see, I want to, obviously we want to see a live graduation. We're going to do a yearbook, but I also think a virtual artifact of the 8th graders' experience is also something that I think they would like to have as well. And so I'd like to certainly improve on what we did last year in that sort of virtual way. And I think we should probably start planning that virtual piece sooner rather than later, because if we do get stuck and that's the only way we have to do it, that's going to need to be planned, really well, or at least, think about who we're going to have support us with that. Because I think if we were going to really put all our eggs in a digital basket, we probably want to pay for a service to have something done, professionally. And I think our kids really deserve that. And we can do that. We'll put money aside for that,
Can I jump on that?
Please do.
So what we're doing is Brooklyn. We don't spend money either. So yeah, I want to do what's great for the kids, right? That's what we have this money sitting there for.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're doing in Brooklyn Tech, Kim is doing a virtual Lunar New Year celebration, and it's going to be, we're going to have acts pre-recorded, and it's going to be me and a handful of people hosting the Zoom, right? So say we have 5 people, and I would share my screen, and we're going to live stream it on YouTube. So we don't have to worry about checking people in. We don't have to worry about Zoom bombing. We don't have to worry about, reaching the capacity of Zoom. We live stream at the same time, and I'm going to kind of be emceeing. There'll be a Chinese emceer and myself, and we'll go back and forth introducing the acts. If politicians want to come on, we'll let them come in the Zoom, because hopefully they don't Zoom bomb us, and they could do their thing, and we'll coordinate it that way. And that's, if that goes off well, that's something that we could look on for our gala, if we have a virtual gala in the spring ourselves, and something we could do very similarly for graduation.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any questions? I think we have actually come to the end of the agenda.
Oh, I haven't looked at the chat. Let's see.
Oh, neither have I. Are there questions coming up in the chat? Oh, wow.
No, I think we're okay with it. Let's see,
Yeah.
5 days, 185. Oh, interesting. Oh, 5 days a week for 12 to 1, right? 3 cohorts. Yep,
I don't see too many questions.
right, waiting for student input. Yep. Okay, great.
All right, so unless anyone has anything to add, I think we had a real nice meeting. And we'll work on some of the things. I'll review the minutes with Winnie. And thank you everyone for coming.
Terrific.
Thank you,
And if you have
everybody.
any questions
Hey,
in the
happy
meantime-
holidays, everybody.
Yes, yes.
Happy
Happy
holidays.
holidays.
Thank you.
Great end of the
I
year.
have a little thing to add. Yes, about the graduation, I heard like a virtual example, like it's actually not in this country, but in another country, like the principal actually the virtual presented, and a group of students, the graduation student, they made a station there, the stairs on that, and to accept the certificate, and kind of they use some technology to make it virtually like the principal present.
Can you send that to us?
I will ask. I know that actually one of my old classmates, she works in that school, so I will ask her how she.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay.
Where was that?
But actually, it's in China, and they are technology school, so they must have some technology about it. But then they combined the things, so the screen, so they kind of look like the principal is giving the certificate to the graduates. But the graduates, they really came to the to the site, so they make a staircase. They work there and to accept things. So it's so we will see if it works for us. And
Wow, it sounds like an interesting idea. I would love to see that. Maybe we can do something similar.
okay. Maybe we'll try something. I don't know last year how we do that, but I think every graduate, they might want something for real or something, like hope this year is better than last year.
Yeah, last year was basically just a picture slideshow of the graduation picture. I was pretty much.
Yeah, but this year I think we have more,
We have more time.
Yes, indeed. And hopefully more ideas too.
Okay.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank
you.
you.
Yeah, if you can find that, and then if you just reply to any of the emails, and you can just include the link, and we'd love to see it.
Okay, I will ask to let them explain to me if it works. It might need like some special technology, I guess. So we'll see.
Well, maybe we can get it or do it.
Okay, I will try to understand first, and I will let you know. Okay.
Super. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So what I was going to say too before we broke was, please don't wait for our next meeting with any questions, concerns, comments. Mr. Feil is always available. No, I'm kidding. I'm always available, whether it's email or phone. I don't know if you have my phone. I'll put it in the chat here so you have it. That's my cell number. Feel free, take it down, use it anytime you like. If I'm not available, trust me, I won't answer, but I will call you back. And I wish you all a very, very happy holiday, and thank you for all you do for our school. Have a great one, everyone.